to be here. We've had one practice where we went out there, and the setup camp is a little bit different as always. When you have a new head coach with Coach Steichen, so it's good. We've had good meetings, and really, as I look back at, we've had a chance in the summer a little bit to look back at OTAs, and really pleased with the foundation that we have set. I think that last year we executed at times well, but there was some inconsistency. You just feel like there's more of an ownership of the defense this year. Just the way they're communicating and talking, some of the indicators, things like that, that is showing up a little bit more. So we really hope to continue to build on that. And then some areas of emphasis that we've had by watching film from last year.
Shaq is back, or at least on the field participating. What does he mean to have back out there into this team?
Well, for me, you can see just how much of a leader he is. And when he's on the field, it feels like it elevates everybody. The tempo, the energy, the whole unit, there's, the competition. So he brings so much that even regardless of his position and how he plays on the field. So I think that really stood out, and that I know he's very excited to get back into the groove. And he's done a really good job, even though he hasn't been able to participate much in practice, of picking up mentally. So now he just needs reps.
I guess with defense, no matter what the scheme is, it's like pass rushing coverage, whatever. Are you concerned or curious because you've got young pass rushers and the cornerback room is as young as it gets?
Right. Well, that's always rush and cover work together. It's a commonly used phrase in the NFL. So we have to generate that pass rush. Obviously, we've got some guys we feel very good about, but we need more. I mentioned it to you last year that the ideal situation is to have 8 guys that can rush the quarterback. The fourth quarter rush is very important to have that, and we got to develop guys. So I will say this: I know we've got some high effort guys. And a lot of times the rush, if you look at all the tape on film and you look at sacks, a lot of them come through second effort. So that part we know that we've got a lot of high effort guys, and we've got some guys that can rush, but how many? That's what we need to find out.
What about corner?
So yeah, you got corners on the perimeter. We've got some young guys there. We've had discussions all after the season with Chris, and we kind of chose to look at this. We feel like we got a good young cornerback group, but we need to see out. We had some signs in OTAs, I thought, where you could see their developmental level and their playmaking ability. So now it's just getting the pads on and how consistent are they day in and day out.
What sort of foundation has Kenny Moore set ahead of this?
Just a true pro. He sets the standard and the pace in that room, and I think he sets the pace of the whole defensive unit. But no doubt about it, there's things that we constantly show tape of him and how he executes and his technique things, and then say, hey, this is how we want it done, just like this. So I think that's probably the best way, a true pro that sets the standard and the pace for the room.
When you say set the pace, what do you mean by that?
Well, just, the play speed, how fast it should look like, how physical it should look like. So, that kind of standard.
As Shaq's coach, how important is it that he's actually out here practicing from the first day this year? Because, it is still a new scheme for him, too.
Yeah, it is, but, he talks the language. He's done a great job. He's here early in the morning, one of those guys like that, in early, leaves late, meets with the coaches. He is, one guy that really wants to make sure he is the ultimate communicator out in the field and wants to be that for this unit. So to do that, you got to study a lot, and he's done that. So I think it's just a different feel with him out there because of his competitiveness and his playmaking ability.
A lot of guys have a presence, but not many like him. I'm talking just in his vocal nature on the field, all that. What does that bring you?
It's just like kind of like Kenny, where the standard and the pace type deal. He does that in the linebacker room and with the unit, and I think that there's a sense of confidence when he brings. When he's out on the field, players look back, they see him. It's like, okay, we don't have to worry about what's going on behind us with him. He kind of has that presence. I think in a way, he brings a sense of calm where guys can just focus on what they need to do. And but I'm anticipating his energy to only even pick up more and more as he's getting back into playing shape and and in the
Because he
defense.
has to gain confidence in himself, right?
Yeah,
That's a
Well, I,
process.
I think he's always had confidence.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
like
coming off the injury.
Yeah, coming off of it, I think that just where he's at and what he can do. But I mean, our training staff has done a tremendous job, and he has too, committed to coming back from it. So he does. I mean, it is early, but he does surely look different.
Gus, when it comes to the guys on the bottom of the roster fighting for the end of that 53 here in camp, what is it that you want to see from them that makes them stand out? Is it more consistency? Is it flash play?
Yeah, I think that's the big part. I mean, you got to have the ability that they can count in play after play, so the consistent part of it. And then a lot of those young guys, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, some of the expectations. I mean, special teams plays a big part of it. You know, so they've got to take that part of it and elevate their game there. So usually when it comes down to it for those younger guys, special teams plays such a big part of it, unless they're a starter.
What have you seen from Dallas Flowers? Chris Ballard was really high on him the other day, and obviously someone who has an opportunity to play.
I think Dallas is one of those guys where he's got the length, the speed, and you look at him and you see the playmaking. Now it's just the consistency. Do we know what we're getting from play after play? But I think he mentioned to me something, you know, back in OTAs talking to Gilly, and Gilly kind of liked him and how he was, and he's like that. I think with Coach Miles, he kind of grew on Milo, you know, as the season went on, and I think that that's important for Milo. We understand him to play in the secondary. He has to trust you. And I think that's what Dallas did as the season went on. I think there was a level of trust between those two.
Julian Blackman's playing a somewhat new position. Just how did that process kind of unfold, and what do you think he kind of brings to the strong safety role?
Well, so here's Julian. He's playing free safety. Then we play him some strong. And then Kenny Moore gets hurt. We play him at nickel. I think that experience at nickel has helped his overall game. I think that he has a better sense of what everybody's doing around him. And the strong safety is a guy in our defense that is going to be around the ball a lot. If you remember Seattle, Cam Chancellor, just around the ball, making tackles, defending the pass, utilize his skill set. You know, that's where Julian's playing for us. So I think him playing nickel last year gave him a better understanding, because there's times it does, you know, feel like a nickel position. Other times it feels like a free safety position. So there's a lot on that plate, and his mentality is the type of person that can handle it.
The other day,
Sometimes with the free safety, when they move down into the box, you worry about their tackling. Where is Julian in terms of him as a tackler?
Well, that's right. I think as a nickel linebacker in our system is more, at times can appear like an outside linebacker. And that's what Julian played last year for us, you know, played some nickel. So I thought his tackling right there, that kind of gave us an idea after watching him tackle in there that maybe strong safety is a good position for him.
I think Julian is dealing with a bit of an injury, but it opens some more time for Nick Cross to kind of develop. What do you hope to see out of him this
Well,
year?
Nick Cross probably made his biggest jump in OTAs. I thought that, you know, you might see his full concentration in practice, but then last year in walkthrough, it was the focus maybe not quite where it needed to be. And, you know, that was a teaching part to say, hey, the walkthrough is just as important. We need your full concentration. There's no, you know, that's where players trust you, that you know what to do. Now, in OTAs, I think he put those two both together. I thought he had good walkthrough sessions, he had good practices, and it felt like, rather than being concerned how his teammates felt of him, it was more of a concern how he plays and making sure he understands it. So I saw a big jump in his maturity. Now it's getting carried over to training camp, but I thought he made a big jump.
Shaq mentioned that he has to watch the tape to like see like where he really is. Are you collaborating with him on that? Like, as part of the staff, like looking at it with him to say, okay, this is where you were at this point, where you kind of need to get to?
Yeah, I think, you know, Shaq is one of those players that has great communication with all areas of the organization. So if he's working out, all of a sudden you'll get a videotape of him working out, you know, and say, hey, here's where I'm at. And the relationship Richard Smith and him have developed is, there is a strong sense of trust between those two. And I think Shaq will go to Richard and say, hey, what did you think? And Richard Smith, as if you know him, there's not a lot of BS to him. He'll tell him, but when he says, hey, I like the way this is looking and how it's coming together, but that's Shaq. He's got great communication, sense takes to me, Richard, the trainers, and I think we all have a pretty good sense where he's at. So now, really, it truly is about just getting him reps.